A few weeks ago, I created a video where I took some of my oldest and worst turning mains and replaced them with some new top of the line speed cubes. But then before I could even upload it, GAN comes along and releases their first ever 5x5, making half the information in that video obsolete before it even came out. So because of GAN's inconvenient release schedule, I'm gonna have to throw that video in the garbage and start again from scratch. So here's the game plan. We're gonna check out the GAN 562M, one of the most advanced 5x5s ever created, and conveniently compare it against some of the other top options on the market. And then if you stick around, I'll tell you the story from last time about why my main Megaminx was so terrible and how DaYan of all companies managed to make such a better one. So with that convoluted background out of the way, let's jump right into it. Now this puzzle was sent to me extra early by thecubicle.com. As always, you can get 5% off anything from their store with discount code Z3Cubing. Now as you'd expect from a GAN puzzle, this thing is not going to be cheap. The standard matte plastic version that I have here is $59, and if you want to upgrade to the UV coated version, that's going to be $68. I guess that's on par with a lot of their 3x3s, but it still seems like a lot even for a 5x5. Now it doesn't come with too many accessories, just an instruction booklet, a little screwdriver, high quality bag, and a plastic card. Oh, and I guess don't forget the spring-loaded cube box. These things are always a lot of fun. Boop! And inside, we have what looks and feels like a classic GAN puzzle. From the logo and the sticker shades to the primary internals and especially the comically rounded off pieces, it definitely looks like a GAN. And at 62mm, it's the same size as most standard 5x5s, the same as the MGC, and a touch bigger than the new X-Man Hong. Now just to give you an idea of the competition, the MGC is the absolute budget winner at $23, yet still has top of the line performance and is incredibly fast, flexible, and fluid. Whereas the X-Man Hong is closer to the GAN at $50, it's a little bit slower and more controllable. I found the outer layers to be absolutely amazing, whereas the inner layers are a little bit mediocre. It also has some really premium features such as core magnets as well as UV coating. So with all of that in mind, let's see what all the fuss is about with the GAN 562. I know GAN once made a 4x4 which kind of flopped, so let's see if they can make a big cube comeback here. And oh my gosh, that is interesting. It's like I was being really cautious at first, but I don't think I need to. The inner layer magnets are strong enough that I don't have to worry about them coming out of alignment while doing a 3x3 algorithm. Wow, that is really nice. It's very different, that's for sure. The first word that comes to mind to describe it is it's very clunky, like all the weight is distributed towards the edges, but not in a way that hampers performance. It just feels very confidence inspiring. I would describe the turning as not super smooth, more sort of crispy, and it's reasonably fast, but not stupid fast like some GAN cubes can be. But the main thing that stands out to me is the incredible fluidity, especially on the inner layers. The reason I keep doing this is that normally if you try and do that on a 5x5, here's what happens on the MGC, and here's what happens on the X-Man Hong, just sort of locks up. Whereas on the GAN, the inner layers feel like a core part of the puzzle that perform just like the outer layers. They don't feel like an afterthought like they can on most other big cubes. Yeah, try doing a fast 3x3 algorithm on the inner layers of your 5x5 and you'll instantly see what I mean. I don't think I've ever seen a cube that does that as well as this one. Now before we try out some full solves, let's take a look inside this thing. You can see the fancy looking magnets here. I don't think they're adjustable or anything though. And taking this thing apart, it seems like we're gonna have to use a screwdriver. So after some effort, the cap comes off to reveal a little tiny screw. I don't think there's gonna be any maglev or spring adjustments in there. And I think it's safe to say that pops are not gonna be an issue on this thing. I've given it multiple times getting that edge out, and I'm just gonna take the entire side off entirely. You gotta admit, it does look cooler this way for sure. So we have all sorts of crazy layers and notches and everything, things I've never seen before, which is probably why it's so pop resistant. Despite the lack of cool adjustment features, we do have core magnets, kind of like the X-Man Hong, and so basically every corner piece attracts to the center, just like that, which basically gives you a much deeper magnetic pull. Basically, as that side gets anywhere close to being aligned, you already feel it and it just snaps itself into place from way far away. And another fun thing is there's a really distinct inner 3x3 inside of here. Normally you only see this on really big cubes like a 9x9, but basically you can see the whole centerpiece, the whole edge piece, the whole corner piece, just like a 3x3 down in this inner shell. And so if you wanted to, you could remove all the extra pieces and just have one big tangly 3x3 left over. That's probably what helps make this cube so stable. But yeah, definitely one of the most unique looking 5x5s on the inside, which makes sense given its uniquely great turning. But now that we've surely messed up the tensions, let's go ahead and scramble this thing up and try out some solves to see what we really think of this thing's turning. And what can I say but wow, GAN absolutely nailed it with this thing. It's not often that I can do one solve on a cube and say unquestionably this will be my main. Just making centers and pairing edges in this thing are an absolute joy. I never knew those things could feel so good. And despite being hopelessly out of practice, I found that all of my solves were consistently faster than at my last competition. I can't say 5x5 has ever been one of my favorite events, but I also can't remember the last time that I got a puzzle that makes me want to practice an event as much as the GAN 562 does. So clearly I quite like this puzzle. I'll get on to some finer conclusions and 5x5 recommendations recommendations towards the end of this video, but for now, let's move on to that Megaminx thing that was recorded a few weeks ago. My main Megaminx is kind of terrible, and that's entirely my fault. At a recent cubing competition, I helped scramble around a Megaminx, and every time I picked up a new puzzle, I realized it turned so much better than mine. I think the main reason mine is so bad is I made the genius decision to replace the springs with maglev, which sounds great in theory, but in practice, using the wrong size magnets like this just made it worse. And the most annoying thing was that this early batch of YJ V2s had very similar shades on the two green sides, which was always very annoying as you're trying to solve it. Now, I haven't just straight up unboxed a new speed cube on this channel in ages, especially anything other than a 3x3, but I think that's warranted today, not only just to replace this thing, but also because of the amazing technology being packed into all sorts of speed cubes nowadays. This one is the Pro M. There's also a Pro LM, which is the same thing, but just a little bit bigger and a little more expensive at $40. Inside the box, it looks like we have an extra set of springs, some extra black caps if you're one of the crazy people who swaps out the colors on a Megaminx, a little card telling you how to adjust the tensions and spring compression, and of course, the actual Megaminx itself. Now, personally, I didn't get the larger version because I've always felt like the V2 was just a little bit too big for a Megaminx. This one feels more similar in size to the Galaxy V2, which I definitely prefer. You'll also notice that the grip pattern, these little ridges along each edge of the puzzle, are much smaller and simpler on this one compared to most Megaminxes. I've never understood the crazy sculpted shape and circles everywhere. They just seem so overkill on the Yoo-Hoo, and I think this is a much more reasonable compromise to be able to grip a dodecahedron. And I guess those were my first turns, and I will say it totally matches the impressions that I've had of this puzzle before, which is that the turning is just super effortless. Like, this might be my terrible lubing job, but my old Galaxy V2 just feels so sluggish in comparison. The Yoo-Hoo V2 was a little bit better out of the box, but I think adding the maglev somehow slowed it down. But on this puzzle, the pieces just feel weightless, like it takes zero force to move them. It skirts that line of almost feeling a little bit flimsy, but I think it comes out on the side of just feeling high quality. And besides that, the turning is ridiculously smooth. It clearly has some stock lube inside, and it's pretty darn fast, yet surprisingly controllable because of all the magnets inside. It has ridiculously good corner cutting, but you hardly even need it because it practically lines itself up automatically. My one critique is it could maybe be a little bit more fluid, like as you're doing an algorithm, but I think that could even be improved by changing the spring compression. And speaking of spring compression, let's pop open a center cap to see how that works. It looks like it's going to be a nice simple system that doesn't require any tools, although unfortunately the instruction booklet doesn't really answer my questions. So let's figure it out. It looks like it's set to 1 to begin with, which is probably the least spring compression. We can turn it this way to change it to 2, 3, 4, or 5. And if we twist it this way, oh, that just removes the entire centerpiece. Oh well, so it seems like there's only one thing to really adjust, which is basically the tensions. If you want to change the elasticity, you just have to swap out the springs. Still a pretty cool feature, since you don't need a screwdriver and you don't have to worry about having uneven tensions. But the feature that I was really looking forward to checking out on this thing is the ball core. I guess I've resigned myself to calling it a ball core because that's how everyone's marketing it nowadays, but it really is just the same old core magnets that GAN introduced in the 3x3s years ago. You have magnets down there in the core, in this case 20 of them. You have a magnet at the end of all 20 of the corner pieces, and as you can see, as the corner gets close to its respective magnet, it goes ahead and attracts to it like that. This gives you a much deeper magnetic pull, allowing you to feel the magnets from much further away, so it really just pulls you into place rather than just being one little sharp click at the end of each turn. I never considered that these might help on a puzzle as big as a Megaminx, but after trying it, I can say that they legitimately do improve the experience, just like they do on most 3x3s nowadays. After doing just a couple of very not warmed up, very out of practice solves, I can easily say that I'm already solving faster and having a lot more fun on Megaminx than I have in years. So needless to say, I clearly have found two great new mains in this video today. They are both on the expensive side though. For the GAN 5x5 at $58 for the lower end version, I can really only recommend it if you're really into 5x5 or just really have a lot of money. But if either of those things do apply, I would absolutely recommend the GAN 5x5. If you're a bit more on a budget or don't care about 5x5, the MGC is still a great choice at just $23. I could maybe see some people preferring the X-Man depending on your turning style, but at a similar price, I think I would take the GAN any day. On the Megaminx side, it's kind of the same story. The DaYan is a great option if you want to spend a bit more money. Otherwise, the Yoo-Hoo for $14 is a great deal as well. They fixed the green color scheme issue on the newer versions, by the way, so if you buy one of these for yourself, it'll be better than mine in every single way. So both of those will be linked in the description as well. Again, don't forget discount code Z3Cubing for 5% off anything from thecubicle.com. But that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this classic style video, just unboxing and trying out some fun new speed cubes. Let me know down in the comments if there's any other new products worth trying out, and I'll see you guys next time.